What's up, everybody, and welcome to another video. In today's video, I have a very exciting thing that I just received in the mail, and I thought that I would do a sort of unboxing here for you all. So, let's just get right into that. What I have here is a box from a person known as JW Knives. Now, this is a really cool Balisong maker from Poland, of all places, and he announced a while back that he was making a Balisong for me and put it on his Instagram and stuff like that, which was exceptionally generous. That is so cool. So yeah, he made this and then sent it my way, and I wanted to open it for you all because it's really special. So inside of this box with a magnetic latch closure is the Balisong. And this is a really unique, really cool piece. So I actually did unbox this before, and it came wrapped in bubble wrap with like little silver bows on it. And that was very cool. That was a really beautiful way for it to be presented. So I'm thankful for that. And you can see this Balisong is just gorgeous. So there's a lot of unique things about this Balisong, but it's also a very interesting one because it takes a lot of inspiration from other places as well. And so I think it's a very cool piece, and I'm excited to have it as a part of my collection. Now, a couple things to note is, first of all, this is some nice, I think it's 6AL4V or whatever, titanium. It's nice titanium. And then it's a blade steel that I don't know how to pronounce because it's just a bunch of different numbers, but it's also a relatively nice blade steel. So the actual materials are very nice, but also something to note is that this thing is entirely handmade. And I'll get into more about that in a little bit, but let's talk about some of the interesting design features first. And one of the ones you'll notice off the bat is this kind of triangular Zen pin nipple. You know, I think this is a very cool concept. I like this because it kind of takes the normal Zen pin nipple where you have this like weird sort of stair-stepped pattern on the back of the Balisong, and it actually turns it into this really nice, you know, pointed thing. And I think that's really dope. Secondly, you can see that this Balisong has just got some very, very interesting, you know, stylings to it. So the handles taper in 3D space from front to back, so you've got it a little bit thicker back here than you do there. There's some really interesting double scoop action happening inside with the spacers, as well as these really cool flush sort of custom hardware that hold the knife together, and then you have the standard hardware up front. And I think that's T10 and then maybe T7 or T8. That might be T6. I think that's either T6 or T7. This looks like it might be T8. So that is a lot of different screw types, unfortunately, but still a very, very nice Balisong. One thing I did notice immediately out of the box, though, is that there is literally no play. Like, this thing has no movement whatsoever. And it also has perfect swing, so the swing is fantastic, which means that the bushings inside of this Balisong are really, really well tuned. And, you know, I think that they probably should be for a Balisong that is worth around $650, but it's still nice to see. So yeah, woo! Watch as I almost drop it directly onto a rock like the genius that I am. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this Balisong, but I also wanted to talk about what this Balisong reminds me of from my own experience. And so let's crack into my case here and take a look. So one of the first things that this kind of struck in me in terms of reminding me of something is the stitch steel alien that I have in Treasure. This thing is a fantastic Balisong with a lot of interesting history behind it, but specifically it was something created by Stitch, who's a good friend of mine, completely by hand. So he takes this Balisong and cuts all of the parts out with a jigsaw and then makes it using a belt sander and a drill press and that kind of stuff, and just creates really, really beautiful and impressive pieces entirely by hand. And so that's what this is. This is very similar to that. The initial rough shape of everything apparently is cut using water jets, but past that point, everything is made with drill press and belt sanders and all of that stuff. So everything after the initial cutting of the parts to get them to the correct size is entirely hand done, which is very cool. And for $650, that is a steal in my opinion, because once again, as I've said with the Alien, honestly, this thing should cost more due to the amount of man-hours it takes to produce. And I can only imagine that something similar is true for the JW here as well. Now, the other thing that this Balisong reminds me of is this right here, my Pro Flipper. So this is my ELB Pro Flipper. And the thing that it reminds me of is the stylings, right? So you can see the style of the ELB Pro Flipper is very similar to this other JW Balisong. I really like the usage of the single long cutout on here, very similar to the ELB Pro Flipper. I think it really takes some of the interesting design cues from the Pro Flipper and then kind of, you know, goes about implementing them in a unique way that I think is really cool and almost pays homage to the original Pro Flipper. Now, something to note is that these two, while they might look similar in design, are very different in terms of construction. So this Balisong is much closer to the stitch steel Alien or normal bushing Balisongs in terms of construction because it is a bushing construction Balisong. Something that is well known about the ELB Pro Flipper is that it uses a bearing system, but not a normal bearing system. It uses a very special IKBS bearing system. And what the IKBS bearing system does is it allows you to have really, really, really nice tolerances utilizing very interesting bearings that basically require zero lubrication throughout the entire life of the product, which is crazy. The way that that's done is using really, really, really tiny balls that are all loose and then placed in there very carefully, and so the actual pivot system is pretty hard to put together and take apart if you don't know what you're doing, which is part of the IKBS process and why you need to be IKBS certified to actually work on a product that's going to be called IKBS bearings. So yeah, that's something relatively interesting about the Pro Flipper, but the JW just uses a standard sort of pivot system, but honestly, it's really well implemented here. You know, I'm a big fan of bushings and bearings. I think that they both have their own merits and uniqueness, but personally for me, I think this thing is really, really awesome. It flips amazingly well just from the small amount of time that I've been able to play with it, and that is exceptionally impressive to me. I've got to say, it just seems to have the right sort of balance in a lot of different areas, and it feels very similar to my Pro Flipper, in my opinion, in terms of its balance. The length of the handles are relatively similar, and the weight at the end means that it carries that momentum extremely well. And then I will say this one, the blade has a little more mass than I'm used to. I wouldn't necessarily call it blade heavy, as it really does perform quite well. And in fact, I might call it more neutral than handle biased, just because of that extra blade weight. But it is really, really well done and really well implemented. And so, because of that, I have found it to be a very competent flipper in the short amount of time that I've been using it. And I plan to update you all and give you more info as to how I end up liking it in the future, but I have a feeling this is going to become a mainstay in my collection. So yeah, I just wanted to give the hugest thank you to JW. You can see his logo etched in right there very beautifully. I literally cannot believe that he just sent me this. Yeah, this was sent to me free of charge by JW. I'm assuming for the promotion, because obviously if you send it to me, I'm going to promote it if I enjoy it. So, you know, that's, I guess that's the price, but like, wow, what a cool thing. So yeah, I'm exceptionally thankful to JW for doing that. That is really, really sweet, and I am so impressed. I would honestly have bought this thing just outright had I known about it. Like, I feel like I've stolen here. This Balisong, first of all, is only $650 when it should be like $1,100. It is that good in terms of its feel in the hand. I am just really, really impressed with this thing. It feels like such a premium Balisong. I'm not gonna lie, it really does. If you have a hankering for an ELB but you can't get your hands on one, honestly, this is the first place I would go. Or if you have a hankering for an ELB but you don't like the bearing system, if you don't like IKBS, well, here you go. You get a really, really beautiful stylized Balisong. And, I keep comparing it to ELB, but I want to be very clear. This is not a ELB clone or an ELB ripoff or whatever. The stylings are certainly inspired by it, but the actual implementation is very unique and honestly creates a really interesting silhouette of a Balisong that I very much enjoy. And I love seeing a fully handmade piece like this. So yeah, this is an exceptionally cool Balisong that I am really, really thankful for, and I hope you guys are as blown away with this thing as I am. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. I just wanted to say thank you to JW for sending me this thing. I'm going to be working on a full review of it eventually. It'll probably be a little while because we are really backed up in terms of our videos. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll have the site for JW's Instagram and everything linked in the description. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Bye.